Hi, I'm Jean Linville, and welcome back to the Hickory's Organic Farm in Ridgefield, Connecticut. Well, our season is coming to a slight close. We've crossed into the fall, and as we can tell, the garden is not looking quite as vigorous as it was. So now it's time to start considering what you want to do with your garden. You have several choices. One is that you can continue enjoying the harvest that's still here because the tomatoes are still going strong, the peppers, the Swiss chard. We just pulled a cucumber still from this little garden, and our basil is still doing quite well. So we're not really needing to pull everything out right now. So we have a decision. We can let this go and finish out, and then when they're all done, decide to put the whole garden to bed, so to speak. That would mean going in and cutting our plants at ground level. Remember, we want to leave that root ball in there so that it can decompose and add nutrients into our garden for next year. And we could, after we cleared everything, we could then cover the bed with leaves. I actually like to take my mower and run over my leaves, kind of like shredding them up a little bit, gather them up, and then coat them on my garden. It gives a really nice mulch. And I'll often do it to a depth of 3 to 4 inches. And then by spring, they start decomposing enough that I can then work them down into my garden to provide more nutrients to my plants. So that's one option if you want to put your garden totally to bed. But let's say that you're not quite done and that you still want to grow some things. There are some great options for that, and we're going to talk about that next. So you can see that I have cut some of my squares down so that they're nice and ready to be used for planting. And I also have several seedlings that are ready. These are cold hardy varieties of kale, lettuces, some beets, spinach, all things that are perfectly happy in the fall. Think about the crops that worked well early in the spring, and those are ones that you can repeat again in the fall. So you're going to use your same spacing. It's good to mix it up a little bit. So where you had lettuces, you might want to put the beets. If you're looking like the weather is going to turn and it's going to get much colder and you're concerned about the plants, there are a few things that you can do. You can get these little pop-up things, or you can make one yourself from a plastic container, cutting out the bottom, and just using them as covers to cover parts of your garden. If you have a bigger area, unfortunately I don't, because my tomato plants are still taking over the world, you could use a larger piece of plexiglass or a window that you have, and this could be put on here as well to create a space that's going to be warmer and maintain the heat. And if you have something like this that you can do, you can actually extend your season pretty much through most of the winter. So I'm preparing to put the beets in. So again, just simple reminders. Remember, you always want to support the plant when you're pulling it out. This one doesn't have a big root stock, so it's pulling out pretty easy. So these are some beets, and I'm going to work on tucking those in. So this is what's exciting at this time of the year, because as I mentioned, sometimes as the days get shorter and we're trying to adapt to it being dark in the morning and dark early in the evening, planting some new seedlings is a really nice, positive thing to be doing. So the basil's been doing really well, and throughout the season I've been cutting it, most of it, and obviously using it for things like pesto and just great fresh basil. But a few weeks ago, what I started doing was not cutting one stalk of the basil, and I allowed it to go to flower, with specifically the idea of letting it flower and then form seeds. So if we take a look at it now, you'll see that these stems are just filled with pods of seeds. The trick is you want to wait until they're fully mature to harvest the seed. So generally what that will look like is like this stem here, which is totally brown. The stem is brown and all the pods are dark brown. And now if I go in and I take one of these pods off, so just by rubbing that pod, breaking it open, you'll see that the seeds have now come out. There's 3 dark brown seeds there that are fully mature and ready to be saved. This is particularly good to do with anything that performed well in your garden and that you love the taste of. So here's a great tomato that's actually been breakfast or lunch or dinner for someone. And at first your instinct might be to just throw this away or throw it into the compost pile. But if you loved this tomato, again, this is a great opportunity for seed saving. Because if we break this open, we can see that there are still plenty of viable seeds in there that we can keep and use for seed saving. And with the tomatoes, what you want to do is, it's actually not a bad idea to just grab some of these seeds and set them aside, let them ferment a little bit, and that actually helps with the process of maturing the seed. Eventually, all of this gelatinous material will need to be washed from the seed and they are allowed to dry. But this is a great way to provide yourself with seeds for next year's growing season. And that's why this time of the year, even though it's kind of sad to see our gardens fading, they do bring us hope in the form of great seeds that we can keep for next year. So whether you're going to put your garden to bed or you're going to try to extend your season a little bit, enjoy this remaining few days of beautiful weather. Gather some seed, enjoy the sun on your shoulder, keep your hands in the earth as long as possible, and have a great autumn.